Hello, my name is Alexei. I would like to make a video. Um, Due to I saw one video um, called Solved. True biblical Greek pronunciation is finally found. After I saw it, I wanted to throw up. I'm like, this is horrible. Um, and First, let me tell you about myself, since we talk about the Greek language. I'm originally from Russia. I lived in Russia about 14 years. Then I moved to United States, and I've been in the United States about 23 years now. I have studied English. I know Russian as a mother tongue, and actually I've been studying Greek now for about 55 weeks right now, and a total of 365 lessons total where I studied. First, I was just wanted to just read as much Bible as I can, able to understand different things, and for I would say almost a year, I was only focusing on just Kini Greek. It's actually mispronounced. I'm using modern Greek pronunciation, of course, Kini Greek, that they still speak today in Athens, specifically focusing on Athenian accent. But of course, there's a Thessaloniki accent and Athenian accent and a little bit of a Cyprus accent as well. But what, at least what I can think of, Athenian accent is the closest accent that it is proper Greek. And what I'm gonna play this video and I'm gonna talk about, and let's hear what this gentleman has to say.
Video, we're going to put an end to the never-ending discussion. What is the true and the most accurate pronunciation for Koine?
Kini, common Greek, Kini.
Greek. I hear this question all the time. Stan, what is the most accurate pronunciation of Koine Greek? And this is a good question because as we learn the language, we want to know how it was pronounced. So, we're gonna do it in 3 steps. First, we're gonna list all the schools of pronunciation which we have today, and then we're gonna go to the second and the main part of our study. We're gonna go back in time to the 1st century and see how Koine Greek was really pronounced back then. And this is where I'm going to bring my argument, which is surprisingly overlooked. At least I have never heard anybody using that argument in the discussion of the Koine Greek pronunciation. So that argument is gonna give us an edge, and hopefully it will resolve this problem. So it's gonna be new, it's gonna be fresh, and it's gonna answer our question. So, and when we learn the true Koine pronunciation of the 1st century, we're gonna go back to our days and evaluate those schools of pronunciation which we have today, to see which one of them is the closest to the true Koine Greek pronunciation. And this is where I'm gonna give you my recommendations on what pronunciation you should choose for your personal studies. So, let's begin. We have 3 main schools of pronunciation for Koine Greek. Number 1 is the Erasmian school of pronunciation, named after Desiderius Erasmus, the 16th century Dutch scholar and theologian. He created this school of pronunciation back then, so it was a phenomenal achievement.
Think of this. In the Bible, talks about by the account of 2 or 3 witnesses, and you have one man define whole language, whole pronunciation. Erasmus, they cannot even pronounce proper alphabet. It's not alpha beta, it's alpha vita. Vita, not beta. So how is that for a non-native speaker, Erasmus would define. I mean, imagine me. I'm from Russia, and let's just say I was like, "Hey guys, let me just get a PhD somewhere, some kind of college here around, here." And you know what? All of you British guys, all of you American guys, all you Australian guys are just wrong. I believe people should speak just like me. I'm just gonna create my own pronunciation. And I mean, just this is mind blowing to me. This is just beyond insanity. How can one man define a whole language? Whole language is not based upon on one man. You have to have native speakers. And Erasmus, he was not even a native speaker. This is ridiculous, but go on.
Pronunciation is very simple, and for that specific reason, it is widely used today. So the second.
Let me talk more about Erasmus. I have I guess, Facebook friends, even though kind of sad to say friends been reduced down to really um, kind of like acquaintance really in reality. But this Facebook buddy, he's born in Athens, Greece, and to him this is what it sounds. Yes, Erasmus pronunciation changes the actual sounds of Greek alphabet into sounds that are foreign to Greek. It sounds like an American trying to speak Greek. It sounds like gibberish. You know, the Pentecostal shalalalalalalalalala, the demon possessed, people who cannot even understand that in New Testament they spoke different languages, different accent, like tongue, like mother tongue. My mother tongue is Russian, but I'm fluent in English. I do have an accent, but still people can understand me from United States. And some people actually think that I was born in Texas. I was like, oh, thank you for what's some a compliment. But even though the Texans themselves, they would spot that they would not think that I'm from Texas. But anyway, so um, uh, native Greek speaker to native Greek speaker, this whole Erasmus pronunciation, it sounds like gibberish. That is why it's important to follow the real Greek alphabet and sounds. This way your Greek will be perfect. Already you sound correct. Keep it up. After you get used to it, it's talk faster and more fluent. So yeah, but basically he tells me what he has studied. It was about, so basically the Germans, Erasmus, use German phonemes, the Italians Italian, the French French, and so on, because it's difficult to pronounce the Greek. They would rather adapt to its own pronunciations, purely subjective. That's why it doesn't sound Greek at all. Not just a little bit. Like, for example, my English can be understood by most of the Americans that I can speak. But he's saying that uh, this whole Erasmus gibberish pronunciation, it doesn't sound like Greek at all. Like Greeks would not able to uh, understand you at all. We're not talking about just a little bit. I'll give you example like word and. Americans would or Erasmus would pronounce kai, when in reality it sounds care. I mean, it's ridiculous. So basically, we had this longest discussion about different things, and one of them is Greek. But going back to the video.
Second school of pronunciation is the modern Greek pronunciation. Koine Greek is still Greek, and so it should be pronounced the same way
Kini, common Greek.
as the modern Greeks pronounce their language today. And so there is some logic and some benefits in this approach to Koine Greek pronunciation. And so the third school of pronunciation is the reconstructed pronunciation. So it stands somewhere in the middle between the Erasmian and the modern Greek pronunciation. And the way it works that the scholars analyze hundreds and even thousands of manuscripts. More specifically, they analyze the errors or typos, the kind of misspellings in those manuscripts. To simplify it, this is how it works. For example, if one word is spelled one way, but suddenly in a few manuscripts it is spelled differently. Why is it spelled differently? Copying happened by hearing, when one person would read manuscripts and several scribes would copy what they hear. And so
they would make a mistake. Back in Russia, like especially early grades, I was horrible. Like when somebody dictates with some like a poem and stuff. Like back in Russia, they would actually make us to copy a poem or some piece of literature, and the teacher would dictate this whole thing to us. I was horrible at that, and with some spelling. Imagine like if I misspell something, um, and somebody would find it, like, oh yeah, this is how it's pronounced. And mind you, those Erasmus followers, they literally go by one person, by one man, instead of analyzing majority of how most of educated Russians would write, because back then I was not that great. Um, so the point is this, that this whole thing, Erasmus or Reconstructionist, how can you even assume, like, think of this, if I misspell one word, the root of it, most of the people will start thinking, oh man, it's something else. Like for example, work. We have work as a root, and er, like I think it's suffix, or the end. I think it's suffix. Because in Russian we have suffix and the ending. But imagine instead of work, I would put down vark, vark, varker instead of worker. That that would be like different root word. But if you're a native speaker, you could identify that mistake and say, hey, we're not looking at the dictionary, we understand that this guy made a mistake, and go on and actually readjust to the mistake. But continue.
the different spellings probably had the same sound. And so this is how they try to reconstruct how Koine Greek, they believe, was pronounced back then. So here we have these three schools of pronunciation. Now let's go back to the 1st century and try to analyze and understand how Koine Greek was truly pronounced.
I'm gonna lose my mind. Kini, coming, kini, coming Greek. Kini Lenika.
And by the way, before we proceed, I want to ask you to leave a comment. What is your preferred school of pronunciation, and
Modern Greek, obviously.
what are the reasons why you chose that pronunciation system? When it comes to studying the Koine Greek pronunciation, usually this question is approached diachronically. That is to say that how the language changed its pronunciation through time. But often it is overlooked how the language spreads and changes geographically. You see, Koine Greek by default is the international language, which means it was the lingua franca of the first century. It all started with Alexander the Great conquering the Mediterranean, Middle East, all the way to India. And he spread the Greek culture and Greek language throughout his empire. This process was called Hellenization. And so
Okay, so we're gonna compare modern English and Greek, Kini Greek. Okay, let's do it.
so the language used in all of those conquered territories simplified, so it wasn't that classical Greek anymore. Even when the Romans took over the Greek Empire, the language still remained because it was simple. It was the language of the common people, and this is what Koine Greek means. It means common Greek, easy to learn, and people wanted to use that language. To understand how the Koine Greek was pronounced back then, we need to understand how the lingua franca of today is pronounced. And the lingua franca of the 21st century is English. Today, English is the international language. Everybody wants to learn it. If you want to study, if you want to do business, if you want to be heard, you do it in English. Even I do my videos in English, even though English is my second language. So today lingua franca is English, and so what is the most accurate pronunciation of English? And the answer is simple. There is no one unified pronunciation.
This is insane. Where English originated from? England. Now it's called Great Britain. London. What are you talking about? Yes, we have former colonies which now are independent countries like United States, New Zealand, Australia. Yes, however, if we're thinking about English language, where it's originated from, England. So the most proper way English pronounced is from England, like London. You're not gonna go, let's just say Cameroon, African country where they speak French, and you're gonna say, well, is it a Cameroon more proper or Paris, France? Where do they properly speak in? France, of course. I mean, this is just mind-blowing. Greeks speak Greek. Englishmen from England, they speak English. French, they speak French. And think of this, every country, or most of the countries, okay, most of the countries are so patriotic of their history. They would study their history. They would guard their history, especially their language.
Of English today. Look, we have British English with Irish and Scottish flavors. We have
Irish, they have their own language before Englishmen took over. And once again, where English, what's called English language came from England. And then England took over different countries like India, United States. It's technically is what's some colonial, former colony of England. New Zealand is a former colony of England or Britain, Great Britain. I mean, it's just sometimes you gotta study history, not of just a language, but country and where it's originated from.
American English, we have Australian English, we have South African English, and then we have Indian English and Filipino English, and of course we have the multicultural English with accents. For example, we have Hispanic accents, we have European accents and the Slavic accents of the Eastern Europe. And then we move to Asia, and there's all sorts of Asian accents. And then African people, they bring their flavor to English. So there.
But English in London, they still speak English, proper English. For example, I'll give you example. William Shakespeare, with which flavor that William Shakespeare was speaking in? With South African English or with Indian flavor English with an accent? Like, there's an accent. Like, I have an accent. I have Russian accent because I'm originally from Russia. But we can assume that people in England speak we can assume that Englishmen, they're the closest to William Shakespeare's pronunciation. Then we have American guy by the name Jack London, a writer who was born in San Francisco, California. Do we assume that he was speaking some English with Indian accent or South African accent or Russian accent? No, he was speaking English, and we would say Californian accent. Could we assume that if we go to California and somebody who is born in California and his native language, as far as I know, Jack London did not speak any other languages, we can assume that Jack London, somebody from California, specifically San Francisco, we can assume that, hey, if this person is born in California, even though there are lots of immigrants and foreigners came to California, but if somebody is born from California, does he speak Californian and is and close to pronunciation of Jack London? Yes, just like William Shakespeare. Continue.
There is no one way to pronounce English today. Look,
and the problem is this. Yes, we have accents, but once again, as I showed you my messages between Eli, Erasmus would not be understood by native Greeks. Nowhere. If they would go to Thessaloniki, they would not be understood. If they go to Sparta, they would not be able to understood. If they go to Athena, they would not be able to understood. If they go to Cyprus, they would not be able to be understood. Erasmus would not be able to understood nowhere in whole Greece. However, if if somebody from South Africa who speaks English but he have South African accent, he would go to England, would he be able to understood? Yes. If the South African goes to United States, would he be able to be understood? Yes, even though there would be minor differences between English of England and English of Americans. Continue.
There are many videos on YouTube of the differences between accents. I'm not the best accent impersonator, but I'm going to share a few examples. The word worker, how do we pronounce it? What is the accurate pronunciation of this word? Well, in British English it would sound a little bit softer, like worker, while in America we like to make those R's heard, so we would say worker. And in the Slavic countries of the Eastern Europe, we would really roll those R's. We would say worker, he is a good worker. So you see, there is no one way of pronouncing the international language. One day I had an Australian student in my class who came and who said, it is a good die to die. And I was thinking, I don't know, I don't want to die. But in reality, he said it is a good day today. So what is the true pronunciation of the word today? It is with some kind of a sound, to die, or with the a sound, today. So now let's look at two examples for kind of cultural flavor of pronouncing English. I lived several years in Asia, and I know firsthand that for many Asian people, the difference between the letters L and R is non-existent. They just don't hear the difference in pronouncing those letters. So maybe they can hear it, but they cannot reproduce it. It's difficult for them to reproduce the difference between these two letters. And the word rice can quickly become lice. And a simple sentence, he has rice, can quickly become he has lice. Imagine if these people would copy the manuscripts. You know, one person is trying to say he has rice, but it sounds like he has lice, and somebody hears totally different. Does it mean that the letters L and R make the same sound? No, they make two different sounds. So we can see that the reconstructed theory has some weak points as well. And now the last example is from my own Slavic culture. You know, the ending or the suffix ing is somewhat difficult for us. You know, we know that the g sound is silent, so it's not ing, and we know that it's not in, it's somewhere in between n and g, so ing, ing. But we don't have this sound in our culture, so it's difficult to pronounce it. And my personal stumbling block is the word singer, singer. So how do you pronounce it? I know it's not singer, and I know that it's not sinner. It's somewhere in between singer, singer,
Singer.
and let's say I want to say
Singer. But the problem is this, that most of the Americans or British or South Africans who speak English, they would be able to understand you. However, if you speak Erasmus pronunciation, Greeks would not be able to understand you at all. At all.
he is a singer. I'm so much afraid to say he is a sinner. So for this reason, I will insert that slight g sound. So I'd better say he is the singer rather than he is a sinner, you know, so it's better to be safe than sorry. And I know that I sound a little bit incorrect, but at least I will not offend the person. So I guess you got the point which I'm trying to make. There is no one unified way of pronouncing English today. It is an international language, and even for the people for whom English is the first language, who are native English speakers, there is no one unified way of pronouncing it. You got my point. Now let's take a look at the Koine Greek of the first century. I can guarantee you that the African Koine in Alexandria in Egypt sounded different than the Koine in Rome and in Italy. And the
But notice what he does. Once again, in Italy they spoke Latin, so a native speaker, he would add Greek on top of his Latin. In Egypt, they would add Greek on top of their Egyptian. As myself, I'm adding English upon my Russian, and now I'm adding Greek upon my Russian and English. So, but once again, let's think with some who spoke most proper Greeks. And once again, yes, there is distinction of Greeks, like the biggest one to me at least, Thessaloniki and Athens. I mean, they have somewhat of a change, but you can say that in Athens they pronounce letters softer, in Thessaloniki they pronounce a little bit harder. However, I still can understand them, and they can understand me both. And each tutor one tutor in Athens would be like, "Oh, Alexi, that's perfect because in Thessaloniki it's a little bit harder pronunciation, but in Athenian pronunciation I have to be like more softer. I have to like Athena, Athena, instead of Athena. The well, depending because it's actually it means either city Athens or what's some false pagan goddess Athena. Athena, like what's some one of the pagan gods in ancient Greece. So the point is this: in Greek, it's like if you change just the emphasis on the word or a letter, it can change its meaning. But going back to the video.
Italian koine sounded different than the koine in Greece, and Greeks spoke koine differently than, let's say, people of Middle East, like
Yes, but Greeks speak proper Greeks.
Asia Minor, Syria, and Judea. Everybody had their own pronunciation. There is no one way to pronounce koine. So
I mean, in America, for example, we do have Louisianian accent, we have Tennessee accent, we have Texas accent, we have um, some New York accent or Boston accent, but still, all of them can easily understand each other. Maybe except for like Louisianian, because like if you've seen the show with some swamp people, they do have a subtitle for that show, even though they speak English in that show, and English speakers from America watching that show, but some Americans would not able to understand this Cajun accent.
let me prove it to you. Do you remember the story when Peter was warming up his hands by the fire in the high priest's courtyard? You remember one of the servants said, "Hey, you are Galilean, you even speak like Galilean, and look where Galilee is and where Jerusalem is. This is a very short distance. Look at..."
Okay, I can show you the same thing with some Boston accent and New York accent, or Louisianian accent and Texas accent, right, literally right next to each other.
The distance of koine we are talking about, right? And Peter was a native Aramaic speaker, and yet he had an accent. So why did he have an accent? Because Galilee was Galilee of Gentiles. Galilee was the region highly populated by Gentiles. In fact, it was the region, most popular region for the Roman colonies, so it was populated by Romans. So who were the parents of Peter and Andrew that they named one child with the Hebrew name and another child with the Greek name? We can see the influence that those people needed to adapt to new cultures, new languages, and new environment. And the point I'm making here is simple. If Peter lived just a short distance from Jerusalem and he was a native speaker of Aramaic and he had an accent, how much more the people of the Roman Empire had an accent in the language which was the second language for them. And so this is my point of this video. There is no one way of pronouncing Koine Greek. Koine Greek by default is the multicultural, multi-accented language. Now let's go back to those three schools of pronunciation which we have and see which one is the best. So, out of these three schools of pronunciation which we have today, which one is the closest to the original Koine Greek of
Modern Greek, modern Greek. What's some whole language based upon one person by the name Erasmus, who never lived in Greece, never spoke to native Greeks. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, I can say like, I can say Coquelin's English, or if you're from other country, if you're a foreigner and you speak English, you can come up with your own pronunciation, which and imagine like you can come up with a pronunciation where nobody of um, native nobody who is native speaker can understand you. I mean, that would be like ridiculous, but go ahead.
The first century? The answer is probably none of them, because the original Koine Greek was the multi-accented, multicultural language. It had no unified pronunciation. So each one of these three.
And on top of this, I mean, I wish I would knew what countries he's from. Um, I don't, and I would hate to guess. Probably somewhere um, Eastern Europe, maybe. But this is just sad. But continue.
Schools of pronunciation is not close enough, and we probably will never know how the original Koine Greek was pronounced. So, out of these three systems of pronunciation, which one should we choose in our studies of the Biblical Greek? Well, it depends on your personal goals. If you are just in the beginning of learning Biblical Greek and your primary goal is to read and translate and maybe occasionally speak Koine Greek when you pronounce those words,
Whom you gonna speak to? Bunch of Erasmus who cannot understand each other, and like I said, I showed you with some my conversation with Eli, who's from Athens originally, and it's just wow. It's just wow.
then I would recommend to stick with the Erasmian school of pronunciation.
Wait. So it's like a contradiction in itself. You're saying there is no proper pronunciation. We have no idea, but hey, Erasmus, let's go. Let's follow just one man, even though we don't have no audio of Erasmus pronounce. What's some pronouncing? Um, anything. We can only assume how he was pronounced because Erasmus. Let me just double check. I think he was from modern Erasmus. There we go. So he was. We look at him, and he was born in Rotterdam, which is Netherlands, and he died in Swiss, so modern day Switzerland. And as far as I know, he never traveled to Greece. He never been to Greece at all. And you can say that yes, there are great speakers whom I saw on YouTube who actually speak really good English, and they can actually pass as a native speaker. Um, However, once again, we don't have no record at all where Erasmus learned um, Greek from who? Like, did he learn it from somebody who actually spoke Greek, or did notice which enabled him to study? So during his first visit in England, once again England, so 499, that was when so he was older gentleman, so it was about 34 years old. Yeah, 34, well, 33 years old. So he goes, okay, to Oxford. Erasmus was participating, impressed by the Bible teaching of John Colet. Was English Catholic priest, and then moved upon England to master the Greek language, which would enable him to study theology on a more profound level and prepare a new edition of. So wait a minute, wait. Time out. You talking about um, Jerome's um, Jerome actually he did translate from Greek into Latin. I mean, it makes zero sense. New edition of Jerome's uh, late 4th century Bible translation. So Jerome he translated from Greek into Latin. I mean, and on top of this, since he did not had, as far as I can tell, access to um, Greek native speaker. It's like playing a broken phone. I mean, it's just horrible. It's like literally one man person language, because it's not even an accent. It's a different language.
It is the easiest pronunciation to learn. Every letter has one particular sound. This system is by far the most popular pronunciation system of Koine Greek today. If you learn the Erasmian pronunciation, everybody will understand you. Maybe
No, no. Well, everybody will understand you. False. No Greek person will understand you. I showed this whole, what's called, all the videos of different Erasmus followers, and like I said, the answer is the same thing. It's like, where is it? Um, where is it? Yeah. Yes, the Erasmus pronunciation changes the sounds. It's like it sounds like it sounds like gibberish. Once again, gibberish. Just continue.
with the exception of the modern Greeks. For this very reason, in all of my educational videos, I use the Erasmian pronunciation. On the other hand, if you want to converse in Koine Greek, so your primary goal is to hear and speak Koine, then I would recommend to choose the modern Greek.
So reading and translating is Erasmus. So I mean, if you go logically, so modern Greeks cannot read and translate Koine Greek, the first century Greek. The problem is this: that most of the tutors can understand Koine Greek. I know a couple of tutors able to easily understand what's going on. Yes, there are tutors who barely can understand Koine Greek, but they would able to understand 50% of Koine Greek. For example, like let's just take Gospel of John chapter 3. You give uh, this whole chapter to translate to a native Greek speaker, and they'll be able to understand it for most of the part, at least 50%. But we have many tutors, Greek tutors, who can understand the whole thing. They can even translate you better that um, I would say some words they can tell you like much easier without any dictionary, because sometimes dictionary are wrong. Can you imagine that? But continue.
pronunciation, because you will be able to speak not only with the other enthusiasts who embrace this pronunciation, but also with the modern Greeks. Even though the modern Greek and Koine Greek, they are a little bit different vocabulary,
There is a let's just say yes, there is different vocabulary. However, most of people don't realize about Greeks this. Um, or how many what okay what is percentage of Greeks have at least bachelor's degree. Oops, misspelled it. What is it? Degree. I know I misspelled it. There we go. So in Greek is about 25% population hold 20 at least 25%. Well, actually, the 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 problem like what's called here we go, graduate about with some 94%. Then with some you have a bunch of languages, but reality is this: in Greece, education is almost like worship there. Like to be Greek, you gotta be educated, and specifically in Athens. I mean, if I mean Athenians specifically, it's like to them it's like um, I'm not sure how to equate one for one, but like in Russia, to be Russian, if you're a Russian man, you gotta at least win one fight, street fight in your lifetime. Then you're a man. In America, I don't know what's like in the South, like in Louisiana, you have to have a truck. You have to drive a truck to be a man. So and the rest of the country, I have no idea like what's like standard of being a man or being American is. I guess freedom, having guns. I don't know. It's really complicated in America. But in Greece, if you Athenian, um, yeah, it's really high. Um, it's really high. Like high level education is there we go percentage. Um, it's it's like oh, in sometimes upper secondary education is actually one among women is like what it says 53% in last year 2022, and men make up 64% because once again there you go that's um, there we go. Let's just ask Wikipedia. Too easy. Total male, female. So literacy rate is 92% nationwide. Um, Total enrollment. Then we have primary, post. So imagine like primary, it's like a high school level. Then out of high school level, let's just say almost half, almost 50% end up in with a bachelor's degree, and out of that they have even more. Even after bachelor's degrees, they have even more with post like master's degree or more. So I mean, to me it's just hilarious. Like some Americans who can barely read and write gonna tell to Greeks that the Greeks do not know Greek, this is just in beyond. It's like uh, imagine like me coming up with a German pronunciation. I never met a German in my life. Actually, I've heard some movies and stuff, and listened to like different music and stuff. But let's just say Indian. Here we go. Um, Never met an Indian. Don't know one word in Indian. Hindi. I think they speak Hindi. Yeah, in India they speak Hindi plus whatever local language is. Let's just say I pick any language I choose, and they send me some book, and I'm just gonna study this book by myself without hearing a native speaker. You know what kind of problems I'm gonna end up? It's gonna be it's not gonna be even close. Um, so it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just uh, people with Erasmus pronunciation won't be able to be understood by native Greeks.
Different grammar, but at least they share the same pronunciation. So what about the reconstructed pronunciation? Well, I would reserve it for more advanced students and learners, of course.
It's probably more advanced. I don't know. It's like, uh, I mean, sad to say, it's almost like reconstructed. It's like I have no idea. You know what? I have no idea about reconstructed people, so I'll just leave them alone.
Koine Greek. Here we have it, three schools of pronunciation of Koine Greek, and no matter which one of them you choose, it is still a choice. And as long as you are aware of the other options and the reasons why people choose one over the other, you can have peace with yourself and peace with others. The bottom line of this video, there is no one unified pronunciation of Koine Greek. The Koine Greek is the language of the international community, and it was always spoken with accent. If you enjoyed this video and it helps you to learn, please smash that like button, comment below, and subscribe.
Horrible. But let's read some of the comments. Like I commented on this video, modern Greek, how one foreign man, Erasmus, defined whole language. It is crazy. We do not have audio records of Erasmus nor first century Greeks. We do not have records. We do not have records how Martin Luther spoke German, but we assume that modern Germans are the closest to the pronunciation. Even though we have different accents of English, we can assume that English accent is the closest that William Shakespeare spoke. There's, of course, Eli, my Facebook buddy, I guess. Of course, he would say that modern Greek, let's see, Erasmus, because it is used academically and theologically by most Christians. It is easy to understand since every letter has its own sound and every symbol is pronounced. By the way, if you go to actually, if you go to this guy right there, John William Mouth, this gentleman right there, William Mouse. This gentleman right there, at least according to some of my tutors whom I showed his pronunciation, his what's some I don't know how to call it, Greek, supposedly Greek. He put everything in neuter sound. There's a masculine, feminine, and neuter sound. He put everything neuter. So men speak like eat, like I know, non non I guess uh, non human sound is just totally crazy. So um, no, Erasmus pronunciation is wrong. Um, then some people say brilliant. The title of this video is somehow inaccurate. So yeah. So that's it. That's gonna be my video. Like I said, study modern Greek. I would recommend preply.com. That's where I study it right now. Um, it's interesting that you can actually choose the price and go by the price. Let's just say, you want to study Greek, but you don't have money. First, find a tutor. You as far as I know, like the first lesson, just find out, do they speak Kini Greek? Like if he's like from Romania, I would obviously recommend not to get him. I would always recommend get a native speaker, somebody who is born, and choose one accent. Like if you're gonna go with Thessaloniki accent, get tutors from Thessaloniki. If you're gonna get somebody from with some of this, actually one tutor here that I actually study with her right now, she predominantly speaks with you in Greek for most of the time. So it's gonna be maybe frustrating and too much. Maybe it's like a drinking from water hose. But she's from Sparta and lives in Athens. Um, with some and it's only $10 an hour. And if you get like bundle lessons, like $20, 20 lesson package, you get some discount. So if, let's just say, if you have time for just say two lessons per week, and you're actually going to do lessons, you're gonna have homework and you're gonna do it, twice a week, you can get it. Also, I recommend you guys check out this video called Historical Greek Pronunciation versus Erasmus. And if you're actually interested, um, there's a channel, there's multiple channels where native speakers, like this one, for example, Learn Greek with GreekPod101.com. They actually have a live.
Language learners, stop scrolling. I tried to learn Spanish in every imaginable way. I took a bunch of.
They have live.
Espera or spera is
They have live video 24/7. You can watch Greek for 24/7. Anytime they talk about different aspects, they talk about religions, they talk about history, they talk about cultures, they talk about food, they talk about travel. They will explain you everything. Like if you don't have money at all, but you have just access to computer, that's like the best channel in my opinion to learn Greek right there. Just go to that website, free right there. So that's it. I hope it's been helpful. Have a nice day. Bye bye.